My parents told me that my son couldn't join the family sports day. Apparently, all the teams were already full. It was said so casually, like they were explaining a weather delay or a dinner reservation mix-up, but it hit me harder than I let on. Later, I would find out that there were 124 people there that day. Kids, parents, cousins, even neighbors. Most had joined at the last minute. I didn't shout, didn't demand an explanation. I simply smiled, nodded, and told my son that maybe next year would be our turn. But I didn't forget. Instead, I waited. 3 months later, my parents stood on my doorstep, faces pale, hands shaking, eyes wide with panic. "How was the sports day?" I asked, keeping my voice light, casual. I had no idea that in 5 minutes my stomach would feel like it had dropped through the pavement, that a cheerful conversation about tug-of-war and water balloons would unravel my entire understanding of the past week, that I was about to learn something I could never unlearn, something that would change everything. But right then it was just harmless small talk. The kind of filler conversation that happens after school pickup. I was leaning against the school gate, counting down the seconds until my son's classroom released him back into the chaos of the world. My cousin Kayla was beside me, sipping something creamy and oat-based, animated as always, speaking like the event was still happening. "Oh my God, it was amazing," she gushed, her words tumbling out like popcorn. They had obstacle courses, a little soccer game, spoon races, water balloons, total madness. Jonah was filthy, dirt, ketchup, sweat. But he had the time of his life. I swear there were over 100 people. Kids, parents, neighbors, everyone came. We ran out of juice boxes before 10. I gave her one of those practice smiles, the kind I've perfected over years of polite gatherings. Warm enough to seem genuine, but empty enough to protect myself. It's the same one I use at weddings, PTA meetings, and neighborhood barbecues. "Didn't Alex want to go?" she asked suddenly, tilting her head. "He would have loved it." "Oh, he really did," I said, my tone airy, casual. "He wanted to go so badly, but I messed up. Missed the sign-up email. Mom said we could go on the waiting list, but no one dropped out." I said it as if it didn't hurt, as if my son hadn't asked me every day, "Did Grandma say anyone canceled yet?" Kayla blinked, then laughed softly. "Wait, you're joking, right?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "There wasn't any list," she said, still smiling at first. "We didn't even sign up. Jonah decided that morning he wanted to go, so we just showed up. They threw him on a team. It was that kind of event. Super chill. I think half the kids joined last minute." The words hit me like static. My face didn't move. I went completely still. The kind of stillness that's second nature after years on the job. That calm, tight, unreadable expression I wear during traffic stops and tense calls where everyone forgets how to breathe. Occupational reflex. I work in law enforcement. Kayla's smile faltered. "You didn't know that?" I stayed silent. "I thought you just didn't want to come," she said quickly, voice uneasy. "Or maybe you were working." "I didn't realize they told you." "It's fine," I interrupted, forcing a polite smile. "We're fine. You sure? You look tired." Before I had to answer, the school bell blared, an alarm disguised as a mercy. The floodgates opened, and kids spilled out like a tidal wave. Alex came bounding down the steps, his backpack swinging, his grin bright. "Hey, Mom!" he shouted, then stopped short when he saw my face. "Are you okay?" Even at 8, he could read me too easily. I bent down, kissed his head, and forced another smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a little tired." We walked to the car hand in hand. He chattered the whole way about a kid who could burp his last name, a new class pet, and how his teacher had mixed up 2 lunches. I nodded, laughed at the right moments, but inside my head, I was still standing at that school gate, hearing Kayla's words over and over. There wasn't a list. We just showed up. That's when it clicked. All of it. The pattern. The story beneath the story. The one I was never meant to see. Lies that clean don't just appear. They're rehearsed, polished over years. And suddenly, I realized something cold and familiar. This wasn't the first time they'd done this. It was just the first time they'd done it to my son. Growing up, I'd always felt like I'd arrived late to a movie everyone else had already seen. My brother and sister were born 2 years apart. Perfectly planned, perfectly matched. I came 5 years later, an afterthought, a scheduling error. My mom once told me it was the perfect surprise. Even as a kid, I knew surprises weren't usually followed by years of half-hearted smiles and clipped patience. I never found proof that I wasn't wanted, no angry diary entries or whispered regrets, but the evidence piled up anyway. Tiny details, like the family photo albums where I only started appearing halfway through. Blurry, off-center, always in the background. My siblings never pretended to love me. They didn't even pretend to notice me. I was the reason they couldn't go out, the reason someone had to babysit, the reason for inconvenience. Then there were the rules. My parents worshipped fairness. At least that's what they called it. Fair meant everyone got what they wanted, except me. Fair meant there were reasons, logical ones, that always ended with me losing something. When I asked for seconds at dinner, my mom would say, "We have to make sure there's enough for the bigger appetites." Translation: your brother gets more because he matters more. Every Sunday night, they played Hearts, a 4-player card game that was practically sacred in our house. My parents, my siblings, and laughter. Always laughter. I sat nearby pretending to read or color, pretending I didn't care. "It's a 4-person game," my dad said once when I asked to join. You'd throw off the balance, like I was a math error, like my very presence broke the equation. Even chores had their rules. My siblings had more homework, so apparently I had to do more around the house. Toilets, litter boxes, baseboards. My brother's single chore? Taking out the trash once a week. My sister managed the family calendar, which basically meant telling Mom about dentist appointments and being praised for her leadership. When I finally asked why I always got the worst jobs, my mom smiled and said, "Because you're the most responsible, we trust you." Nothing like being punished with trust. Looking back, it's not the chores or the dinners that still sting. It's how easily I believed it all made sense. How they spun everything so neatly that I started doubting my own feelings. It wasn't abuse you could point to. It was quieter than that. A slow erasure disguised as fairness. By the time college came, the pattern was set in stone. My brother and sister both got financial support, tuition, housing, the works. I didn't. The rule was that any child with straight A's in core subjects got help. I had 2 A's and a B+. It wouldn't be fair to change the rule now, my mom said. So I joined the police academy. State-funded, self-sufficient, no parental help required. I learned how to keep calm when people screamed, how to hold my ground, how to walk away, and for years I thought I had finally escaped. I had built a life where the rules were clear, predictable, and didn't exist to make me small. Until now. Until the moment I realized I had let that same sickness touch my son. It had started so simply. One afternoon, Alex came home from school, his eyes bright with excitement. "Mom, there's going to be a family sports day. Can we go?" I smiled. "What's that, sweetheart?" "They're making teams," he said, bouncing in place. "There'll be races, soccer, obstacle courses, everything. It's this Saturday." I texted my mom right away. She replied within minutes. And that was when everything began. There was Animail. Invite. You didn't RSVP, so I assumed you weren't interested. Teams are already full. I checked my inbox. Nothing. Not even spam. I told her that. She said, "Maybe it bounced. Maybe I deleted it. Happens all the time." Then she added, "But I can put Alex on the waiting list. If anyone drops out, I'll let you know." And I believed her because my mom was always big on rules and because I work in law enforcement where the rules matter, where they mean something. So I told Alex he took it well better than I expected. "Okay," he said quietly. And that was it. No yelling, no meltdown. Just a soft little nod and an okay. That made my throat feel tight. But then he started asking gently, hopefully, like he didn't want to push. But he really needed to know. "Did Grandma say anyone kenneled yet? Can we still go if someone drops out? Did you check your phone? Maybe they'll make a new team. If I'm really good?" It wasn't once a day. It was 5, maybe 10, he asked with that careful kind of hope. Only kids have the kind that tries not to be annoying because deep down they're scared the answer might really be no. Every time I texted my mom and every time she replied with the same careful clipped messages, "No change yet, still full. Sorry, sweetheart." I told myself she was being fair, respecting the rules, doing what she thought was right, and I was proud of Alex. I really was. He didn't throw a tantrum. He didn't act out. He just waited. Hopefully, quietly, he still practiced soccer in the yard, still packed his water bottle and sneakers the night before just in case. I convinced myself we were both doing the right thing, that this was a valuable lesson in fairness, and how life comes with rules. But then I discovered it had all been a lie. There was no cutoff date, no closed roster, no filled-up teams, no waiting list, just a fabricated excuse. And I believed it. I passed that belief along. I told my son the system was just that he hadn't been excluded, just unlucky. And now that thought won't leave me. Because all through my own childhood, I sat on the sidelines watching a game I was never allowed to join. And when it finally counted, when I had a chance to change the pattern, I placed my own child on the bench right next to me. They didn't just lie to me. They made me lie to him, and that's a kind of betrayal. I don't know how to forgive. Not from them and not from myself. But I can tell you this. It's not over. And next time I won't be quietly sitting on the edge. In the beginning, I kept replaying it, asking myself why they do this. Why? Why go to such lengths to pretend there was some sign-up list? Why give him hope at all? But I cut that train of thought off because deep down I already knew. Or worse, I understood there was no reason that would make any of it make sense. Not to me and certainly not to Alex. So I let go of the question why Andre placed it with the only one that mattered. Who helped keep the lie alive? Who stood by with a smile while my son stood off to the side clutching his water bottle and his hope. Because once I found out who I could make absolutely sure they'd never get that close to him again. So I did what I'm best at. Quiet, steady, face-to-face conversations. No outbursts, no yelling, just deliberate truth. One person at a time. I started with my mother. I dropped by that evening. No heads up, no warning. Just rang the bell like I was asking to borrow sugar. She opened the door in her usual soft focus apron. All sweetness and fake surprise. Oh, I wasn't expecting. There was no waiting list, I said flatly. No smile, no greeting, just those words. Her face stayed still. What are you talking about? You told me Alex was waitlisted, that the team had already been filled. She gave Asmal papery laugh. The kind people offer when they're cornered but still trying to charm their way out. Oh, sweetheart, it was just Amos communication. I thought, no, you didn't. I cut in, locking eyes with her. You lied. That landed. She blinked once, twice, then released this long, dramatic sigh, the same one she used back when I was a child, and asked questions that irritated her. I just didn't want things to get messy. There were already so many kids, and not everyone. There were 124 people there, I said. Jonah was added that morning. Sour Mindy's twins. Alex was the only one left out. She shifted her stance the way people do when they realize they're losing. Well, I didn't think you were that concerned. I texted you 5 times. She tried the hurt angle. You're being very aggressive. No, I replied, still calm. I'm being direct. She didn't say sorry. Of course she didn't. She called it a judgment call. Said sometimes things just fall through the cracks. Like my son, I walked out before I said something I'd regret. Although honestly, I kind of regret not filming her face when I said the word lie. Next, my father. He was in the garage fiddling with old tools. Like that's going to get him canonized. I told him what Mom said about the list about Alex. He looked down at his workbench like it might offer him a way out. I didn't know what she told you. She said there was no space, that the teams were full. Long sight. Well, we didn't want drama, right? Of course, the fragile piece of a barbecue mattered more than an 8-year-old's dignity. Alex hoping every day for a spot. I said, that's real drama. He didn't respond. You knew, I said. You helped organize. He mumbled something about just helping with chairs, which would have been funny if it wasn't so insulting. You knew, I repeated softer now, and you said nothing. He didn't meet my eyes, just stood there surrounded by rusted tools, and a silence I no longer felt responsible for filling. I left him toit, then came. My sister, we met for coffee at her request. She picked a place with cute chairs and expensive muffins, probably hoping the vibe would do the emotional heavy lifting. So, she said, crossing her legs like a talk show guest, heard you're on the warpath. Not a warpath, I said. Just asking people why they lied to an 8-year-old. She laughed. Actually laughed. Oh my God, you're really upset about this. No, I said I'm really calm. That's what makes this worse. You're taking this way too personally, right? I said because it was just my son. She sipped her oat milk latte and rolled her eyes. You always do this. Do what make everything a big thing. It was a casual event. We didn't think you cared. Did you know? Mom told me teams were full. Her mouth twitched just for a second. Then she smiled wide and polished. Honestly, I didn't know what she told you. But you knew Alex wasn't invited. Silence. That was all I needed. Last, my brother. Wimmet in a parking lot, neutral ground. He leaned against his car like we were meeting to exchange hostages. When he told him what Mom said about the waiting list, he frowned. That's not what she told me, he said. What did she tell you? That you were busy? That you said no? He stared at him. You believe that? He shrugged. You weren't at the last 2 family events I was working. You know my job. He shrugged again. It's just a family sports day. Don't blow this up. You knew there wasn't a list. Sure, but I didn't know what Mom told you. It's not like I was involved, but you didn't ask no. And you didn't tell me no. He looked at me like I was being irrational, like I was the one making it personal. Maybe I was as it was after that. I started talking to everyone else. Cousins-in-laws. People who were actually at the event. Face to face in quiet places with calm voices. I told them what Mom had said. That I'd asked to sign Alex up. That she told me there was a list. And that it was full. Every single person looked shocked. Wait, said my cousin Ashley. I thought you were out of town. Nope. I assumed you didn't want to come, said another. She said you had other plans, said a third. Some of them looked genuinely shaken. One aunt even teared up and said, If I'd known, I would have called you myself. One thing became very clear. None of them were in on it. The lie was tightly held, just my parents and siblings. Everyone else had been fed stories, subtle little edits, to make sure no one asked too many questions. They didn't just keep him out. They made sure no one would question it. I didn't post anything. I didn't call people out publicly. I didn't write some long Facebook take-on. I didn't need to. The truth was doing just fine on its own. But then, of course, my mother tried to claim the narrative she posted in the extended family group chat. It's very hurtful to hear certain things being said that aren't true. We've always tried our best. Family should forgive, not spread rumors. Some people are choosing to rewrite events in a very unfair light. No names, no details, but everyone knew who she meant. So, I responded. No rant, no yelling. Just a screenshot of my messages with harassing about the event, asking to sign Alex up, asking if anyone dropped out, and beneath it, I wrote, I'm not spreading rumors. I'm showing receipts. The chat went silent. 4 hours, then someone liked my message, then another, and then nothing from her side. No apology, no explanation, just digital silence from the people who raised me. And for the first time in a long time, that silence felt like relief. But I knew it wasn't the end. Not even close. I didn't wait for an apology. The moment I hit send on that message, the one with the screenshots, the timestamps, the evidence, I blocked all 4 of them. Mom, Dad, my sister, my brother. No long speech, no warning, no drawn-out confrontation where they fake cry and talk about healing. Just silence, controlled, deliberate silence. I didn't even give them a chance to spin it. They'd had weeks for that. Months if you count the years of groundwork leading up to it. No more playing family with people who don't know what the word means. What I hadn't done yet was tell Alex I hadn't planned to. But after the group chat message, I started getting little signals. A cousin's kid asked him if he was still mad about sports day. One mom from school texted me something vague and well-meaning that made it clear the gossip train was already leaving the station and I couldn't risk it if he was going to find out the truth. It had to come from me, not from a classmate with half the facts and no filter. So, I dreaded it because if it hit me like a truck and I'm a cop trained to stay calm when someone's bleeding on a sidewalk, then what the hell would it do to an 8-year-old? But I didn't have the luxury of shielding him anymore. So, I got up early one morning, made pancakes, and sat across from him, like we were about to talk about math homework. Hey, I said softly. I need to tell you something about the sports day. He blinked at me, still chewing. You remember how we thought there was a waiting list? He nodded. That wasn't true, Grandma. She lied. There was space. A lot of space. She just didn't want us there. He didn't say anything. I waited. Finally, he asked in the smallest voice I've ever heard from him. Did I do something wrong? I swallowed hard. No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything. If anyone did something wrong, it was. I think she didn't want me there, and you got caught in the crossfire. He looked down at his plate. His hands were still. But I was excited. I know I said and somehow managed to keep my voice steady. I know you were. He didn't cry, just nodded, then asked if we could watch cartoons later. I said yes. Then I went to the bathroom and sat on the floor for 10 minutes, shaking. That afternoon, I opened a new group chat titled, "It's Something Better." I sent the first message. I'm organizing a new family sports event. Everyone's invited except my parents, sister, and brother. Let me know if you're in the stared at the screen, heart thoo-tooing. Then their replies started rolling in 100% in. Yes, let's make it amazing already. Blocking out the date. Need me to bring cones or kiosks within hours? We had volunteers, team captains, a designated snack table coordinator, and someone's uncle hooned a bounce house. But most importantly, we had sides. It wasn't just an event. It was a statement. We weren't pretending everything was fine anymore. No more polite silences. No more gritted teeth over potato salad. This was a rebellion, and I wasn't leading it alone. The planning was chaotic in the best way. I'd never organized something this big before. But apparently, rage and spreadsheet addiction are a powerful combo. We picked a date, rented a park name, the teams after ridiculous things. Team Pickle, Team Tornado Team, Left Sock. People messaged me privately telling me what happened at the last event was awful, that they wished they'd known sooner. Some even offered to help pay for equipment. One cousin wrote, "I told my mom if she goes to their house again, she's not welcome at mine." Another said, "We all saw how they treated you. We're done pretending it wasn't just inclusion. It was alliance. We had rules the ironic kind. Rule number 1, everyone's allowed. Rule number 2, unless you excluded a child for sport 3 days before the event, my mom and sister showed up at school pickup like they thought public places made them immune. I saw them standing by the parking lot, all pearls and forced smiles. I didn't even flinch. Can we talk?" My mom called out. "Nope," I said. "Busy." My sister took a step forward. "You're really going to keep the kids out of this? You did that already?" I said without stopping. "You're being vindictive." "No," I said, opening the car door. "I'm being selective." My mom raised her voice. "You're tearing this family apart." "You tray it." I said, "I'm just cleaning up the pieces." I drove away before they had the chance to say anything else. The next day, their approach shifted. This time, they sent a child, my niece, sweet and quiet, the kind of kid who still hugs with both arms. She came up to me after school and asked in a soft whisper if she could come to our sports day. "Mom said maybe you'd say yes if I asked," she murmured. I knelt down beside her, smiled gently. "Of course you can come, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong." Her whole face lit up. I glanced across the field and saw my sister watching from a distance, smiling. She thought she'd pulled off a win, but she hadn't. The day of the event buzzed with energy. More than 100 people showed up. We had music, ice cream coolers, mismatched team shirts, and someone even brought a karaoke machine, even though it had nothing to do with sports. Alex wore a captain's armband and greeted each kid like a tiny executive. He took the role seriously. I'd never seen him look so proud. Then halfway through the day, they arrived. All of them. My mom, dad, sister, brother, their spouses, their casseroles. Uninvited, unwelcome. But there anyway, their children ran off to join the games. I let them. I wasn't going to punish kids for the choices of adults, but for the grown-ups, we were prepared. We'd all agreed ahead of time. No greetings, no smiles, no eye contact. They wouldn't be offered seats. They wouldn't be served. They would be seen, but not embraced. As they approached the edibles, conversations fell silent. They lingered awkwardly, hoping for an opening that never came. My mom tried speaking to someone, got a tight-lipped nod and a turn back. They became invisible, and yet in that invisibility painfully noticeable. Eventually, they hovered near the trash bins, then moved to the edge of the field, and finally, they left. The kids were upset. One had half his face painted like a dinosaur. Another had just won a race and didn't want to leave. But they went anyway, ostracized by their own actions. 3 days later, they showed up at my door. My mother, my father, and my sister. Apparently, my brother had something more important to do. Or, more likely, he wanted to avoid another round of shame. I opened the door just enough to show I wasn't afraid. "Just finished." "You humiliated us," my mother said. "No," I replied. "You did that yourselves. I just stopped covering it up. You made us feel like criminals. You made a child feel invisible. Frankly, you're lucky all you got was a cold shoulder." My sister stepped closer. "You need to fix this." I smiled. I already did. It was perfect. My mom narrowed her eyes. "One day you're going to regret this." I already did, I said. That's why I ended it. Then I closed the door. No yelling, no drama, just closure. I walked back into the kitchen where Alex was at the whiteboard I'd hung just for him. He turned to me. "Mom, Next year, our team should be called the Comeback Kids. I grinned. Sounds like a plan, because we were and we already had. I still don't know if I went too far. But I do know I protected my son, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. What do you think? Did I overstep or finally set a boundary? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell.